Hi everybody, we have our first sketchbook drawing session today. And sketchbook drawing, I'm calling it that so that we have permission to make mistakes with our process here. That doesn't mean that you're not gonna have amazing drawings that come out of these sessions, in which case you can take them out, you can frame it up, you can use them. But I just want us to have permission just to let loose and to improve. And I find drawing, it's something that most of us already have a story about. Maybe we feel we're really good at drawing, or we feel we're really horrible at drawing, or we can't draw. And wherever we are on that spectrum, whatever we've kind of predetermined, I find it's really limiting. Even for myself, I always felt that I was good at drawing, that I was a good artist growing up. And as I got older, I realized that I was so concerned about people thinking that I did a bad drawing, that something wasn't good, that I wouldn't take risks and I wouldn't push myself. And some of my best work has come from a series of errors. So I find it's really limiting on either end of the spectrum. So I would encourage you just to notice if you have a story already within you about what that is. And drawing is a skill. It's a skill like anything else that's a skill, you can improve upon it. So yeah, certain people have a different kind of baseline. Maybe they're a little more inclined to drawing, but it's a skill and we can all improve. So that's what we're here for. Our first drawing session is going to be an eye. And I wanted to mention, this is actually my eye. And I bring that up because number one, I love having my own reference. So if I'm gonna draw something, I really like to print it out. I like analog. I like to have my own reference. And then also, I like to be connected to it in some way. Maybe it means something to me. And so when I thought about what we're gonna do for our first session, I thought, oh man, I really love drawing eyes. And then I said, wait, this is the first session of the Patreon, so I'd like to do my own eye and just kind of feel connected to it in that way. So I'm gonna put this reference with any of these drawing sessions. I'll include the reference for you. So you're welcome to use my reference. It doesn't have to be printed out. You could always just have it on an iPad or have it on a screen. But if you would rather use your own reference, you're welcome to do that too. I just took my phone and took a picture of my eye and then I printed it out. So you're welcome to do that as well. So like I said, I really love analog, so I'm just gonna take my reference and I'm gonna tape it up onto my board. Now I would encourage you to use, whether you're using a sketchbook or not, to use pencil. I'm gonna use a Sharpie just so that you can see me well. But I would encourage you, however you feel in your sketchbook, a pencil is probably going to be a little bit easier for you to just feel like loose and like you can erase and all of that. So the Sharpie is just for demo. It's not going to be something that I would encourage you to do for your drawing. All right, I got my eye. Now with drawing, I always like to remember when I first look at it, no matter how many times I sit down to a drawing, when I first look at it, I always get a little intimidated. And so when I kind of feel that in myself, I just think, okay, I'm just gonna start somewhere. It's just a series of lines, and I'm just gonna start somewhere and I'm gonna move from there. All right, so with the eye, a lot of times I start with that top curve. And I also remember, sure, I'm looking at a reference, but this doesn't have to be every single curve exactly the way it is on my picture. It's gonna change, it's gonna move a little bit. I'm essentially interpreting it from this reference onto the paper. It's coming through me, it's going onto the paper, it's gonna change a little bit. So I think more in terms of getting the essence of what I'm doing than being so hard on myself about it looking exactly like my reference. So that's something I wanted to point out as well. So starting off, once again, I have my Sharpie. I would definitely recommend a pencil. And also, when you're using your pencil, think about, you want to give yourself the room to make mistakes. So think about moving softly, moving lightly. You can always make it harder. It's a little bit rougher to erase, because especially if it's super hard and it kind of creases the paper, and it can make you feel like it's harder to move and change with the progression of your drawing. So nice and light as you're working with your sketching. Sometimes I even put my pinky down, and I kind of sketch that way because it keeps me from anchoring in too hard. Just gives me a little bit of a lighter touch. So you can always kind of put your pinky down as you're drawing as well. Okay, so starting with my curved line here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn a little bit towards it. curved line. I find too, once you're getting started out, if it's possible to get a reference that is similar, that you can kind of put even a similar size to what you're going to be working on in your paper, it can be super helpful. There's often times where I'm working on a big painting and I have to have a small reference in a large painting, unless I have a projection or something. So it's not always optimal, but if you can, especially as you're starting out, that's a nice way to practice where it's a similar size to what you're going to be doing. All right, so curved line coming up here on the top. So I'm just going to start with that. I'm just going to go for it. And I'm noticing here where I have the lash line, it's a little thicker right there. So I'm just gonna come through it for two reasons. I'm gonna smooth out a little bit my line, and I'm gonna thicken up that line a little bit as well. So now I've already got kind of my starting point, and I'm just gonna get a little thicker, and I'm gonna come around. Now notice too, a lot of times when I'm drawing, depending on what time of the day it is or what I've been doing, I might notice that maybe my hand's really smooth, maybe not so much. So just kind of notice how you're feeling. If you need to pause and just like stretch, or you need to kind of wiggle or something like that too. It is a very, it's just your hand, but it's kind of a body thing. So if you're feeling a little shaky, or you feel like you just had your coffee, it's okay. You know, I've definitely done a lot of drawings where I just had a lot of coffee, but feel free to take a moment to get comfortable and make sure you notice how you feel in your body. So we've got this curved line. Now I'm going to go ahead and come through for this bottom line. I'm going to try to go really light, even though I'm with Sharpie, because this bottom line looks less, it doesn't look as dark and pronounced as the top. That lower lid is often a lot softer. The lashes are shorter and all of that. So I'm going to come down here, curve, and I'm going to try to get myself to meet on the other side. But if I don't, I can always lengthen the top line. All right, so I'm just going to try to go for it. Come right around. Okay, so now I've got that kind of almond shape. All right, for the eye. And I'm going to take from here, this circular portion here, something to notice about eyes. I'm going to put in this area, and with an eye, if I have all of the eye showing, like the whole circle, I can look super duper surprised. But if I let my eye soften, it's going to generally cut off portions of the circle on the top and bottom. Okay, so I'm going to notice that here. As I put in my circle, if the eye looks super surprised, I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more line to the top or the bottom to kind of enclose the eye into that shape. Okay, so here I am. Just going to go for it once again. And the way I have it here, I have the whole bottom edge of my pupil showing there. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that bottom line. So I have that. And then I'm going to go ahead too, and I'm going to add the center. Okay. So I've got that there. And I've got kind of the basic shape of the eye. All right, so from here I'm thinking, okay, I've got my basic shape. I can kind of let loose a little bit, because now I'm gonna start to get into eyelashes. I like to add the kind of wrinkles around the eye. It just adds a little detail. Even this lower lid right here, that little bit of detail is all really nice too. So I've got the basic shape, the pressure's off a little bit. Now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna start adding in some details on top of that. So first of all, I am going to go ahead and shade in the center here. And I have on my reference, I have some reflected light. I'm not gonna get too caught up on that because I want us to get into kind of just learning to move with the lines and get the shapes in there. And we'll get more into charcoal and things where we can do more shading. Even with drawing, we can do more shading. But for this purpose, I'm gonna stick more to the lines, but I am gonna leave a little bit of room for one of those highlights. So I'm just gonna give myself kind of a little portion here for this highlight. And I'm just gonna leave that out. add a little space for my highlight. And then I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna notice my lashes. So the lashes here, one thing I find that we tend to do when we're drawing an eye is we tend to have all the lashes going in the same direction. And if you look at them, some of them are kind of crossing over each other. They're moving in different ways. So I try to make sure that I capture that. So back here, when we get to the corner of the eye, a lot of times the lashes are kind of going down and out, kind of sloping a little bit there. I'm actually going to take this closer to you for this portion because it's detailed. I want to be able to see a little bit better. Okay, so here. All right, so I've got that portion and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start coming up and I'm gonna let my lashes move in different directions. All right, coming up. As we get to the top, maybe they even kind of come down a little bit over the lid. Coming out this way, overlapping. I want them to get full. I don't want them to be so thick that it looks kind of like it's solid. You know, I want to make sure I have plenty of space in between. Okay, so now I've got the lashes, and then I'm going to move to the bottom, and I'm going to notice here at the bottom that my lashes are a little bit more sparse. They're not so dark and heavy, but I still have that kind of fan out on the bottom lashes. All right, so I'm going to come through, and I'm going to, while I'm at it, I'm actually going to go ahead and add a little indication of that lower lid. So I'm going to come through here and I'm just going to lightly give myself a little indication of that lower lid, just that little edge there. It's just a nice little detail. And then I'm going to come through and add my lashes. All right. Okay, so now I've got this portion. I'm also, while I'm up close to you here, I'm also going to notice this little area at the center. That detail is really nice too. There's the kind of a little edge where you have kind of a crease in there, and I like to put that in as well. I think it's a really nice touch too. And you can even kind of get a little bit more shape on that tear duct area there. And notice this is my reference, so if you're using your own, there can totally be differences. A lot of times the eye is a little bit more kind of like there's an edge and then it curves over. So all the shapes are different. So if yours isn't matching up to mine, just follow what your reference is and think the same kind of method, just going line by line. All right. Okay, I'm gonna put it back up here. So we've got the shape, we've got our eyelashes. And now I'm going to come through this area here, this kind of upper lid. It's interesting because I am 41 and this used to have just one line and now I've got a couple in there. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it in here just the way I see it, and it's coming up. Coming up and over, and I'm coming down towards the center of my eye, and it's getting a little more narrow as I go down towards the inside. All right, so I'm coming down, getting a little more narrow here, right there towards my eye, and I'll go ahead and add that extra little edge in there too, a little extra detail. All right, and I'm feeling a little surprised in my eye. I think this pupil here, I'm gonna make it a little bit wider so that it kind of comes up into the upper lid. So I'm just gonna sort of thicken it up a little bit. All right, yeah, that feels a little bit better for me. Okay, so now we've got the eye shape. We've got some details in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and come on up and I'm gonna add the eyebrow. So the eyebrow is really interesting because it also kind of like the way that you can get surprised really quick if the eye's so open, the eyebrow can really quickly change the look as well. So if you have it going down too much, you're immediately gonna start looking angry. And if it's up too high and kind of sloping down, then it can start to look pretty sad too. So Everyone's going to be different, just kind of everyone's eyebrow shape is different, but I try to just notice that. And if it starts to feel like it's looking angry, I just kind of notice where the shape of my eyebrow is going. So here we are. I'm starting, if I go up from my tear duct, generally it's going to be pretty much in that ballpark if I go straight up. A lot of times with drawing, we don't need it so much in this one, but a lot of times with drawing, I like to use angles. So I'll just take my pencil or paintbrush or whatever I'm using and just angle up and see where I need to be. So if I'm starting my eyebrow, I angle up from the center. That's where I'm gonna be to start my eyebrow there. Okay, so here I am coming up, and I'm just gonna start just lightly getting this shape. I'm gonna get to the edge too. That's about the edge of the eye. And I'm gonna sort of meet myself in the middle. That's just kind of how I felt like I wanted to do this here. And I'm going light with almost like little dash lines to get it in there without getting too solid. I'm trying not to get too solid so it seems kind of nice and light like the eyebrow. All right, so I'm out here. Now this area, the edge of the eyebrow, gets a lot more narrow, all right, and thicker as we get up and over. So I'm gonna just think about that as I come through and just fill it in. I'm just using small sort of dash lines coming up. And I'm going to come all the way down. Same thing, some of these are kind of going different directions. And I'm just gonna fill in a little bit more so I have a pretty defined eyebrow. All right. All right, now once we have that shape, we can go any direction you want. Maybe you've done this in pencil. Maybe you do want to take a thin Sharpie and you want to go through with ink and you want to go through and go over the lines that you did. I actually find that's a really good practice. Drawing is essentially, it's kind of, it's working a muscle. It's kind of training that connection. So going through and kind of going over lines and taking ink and going over your pencil lines, you're just kind of working that connection. And I find it all counts. It all helps as you continue to improve with your drawing skill. You'd also go through with color. You could take a little watercolor in there and maybe add the color of the eye. You could start to add the rest of the face or the other eye if you wanted to go across for the other eye. So from here, you can take it any direction you want. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you soon.